Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. At this moment, a young man came out of the room and saw Hu Yuhao, and he was stunned for a moment. The young man has a handsome appearance, fair skin, and a pair of big eyes. They are actually light pink and blue, and his short hair is also the same color. His handsome appearance seems to be even more handsome than Bebe. What's more, he is indeed the best-looking peer Hu Yuhao has ever seen. He is about the same height and age as him. You are? Hu Yuhao asked subconsciously. Hu Yuhao hurriedly turned aside to let the young man walk past him, but he stopped and turned to look at him after he walked a few steps. You are also in this dormitory, right? I will allow you to temporarily. I live with me, and I have a few rules you have to remember. First, you are not allowed to take anyone back to the dormitory. Second, you are not allowed to be naked in the dormitory. Third, you are not allowed to snore at night. Fourth, do not disturb me. Cleaning is up to you, but don't touch my bed. Do you hear me clearly? Seeing the boy's aloof look, Hu Yuhao could nt help, but slammed into the air. Why should I listen to you? What people can't stand the most when oppressed is this kind of high-ranking look. He said coldly, try, let's go out and see that he doesn't show any weakness. The young man smiled instead. His smile is beautiful, but that kind of disdain and contempt. But the taste of it ignited the anger in Hu Yuhao's heart even more. I don't know your name yet. The young man asked contemptuously. My name is Wang Dong, my name is Hu Yuhao. Wang Dong smiled slightly and suddenly approached Hu Yuhao. Very well, I think your name will disappear in Shrek Academy soon. Let's go, idiot. Hu Yuhao strode out with clenched fists. Even though he knew that he was not very powerful, he would never let anyone bully him, and this person would be his roommate from Shrek Academy for at least the next year. Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong walked out of the dormitory. After walking out of the dormitory, Wang Dong stood on the open space outside the dormitory, turned around and hooked his fingers towards Hu Yuhao. Anger was burning in his heart, but he didn't just rush up like this. After experiencing the test of life and death in the Star-Do Great Forest, at least he learned one thing, that is to be calm. The old man leaning on the recliner at the door of the dormitory raised his head slightly. Looking at the faint golden light of Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong, a white soul ring flashed in Hu Yuhao's eyes, and then his eyes rose from his feet, and his martial soul opened. Looking at his 10-year soul ring, Wang Dong chuckled, I'm curious how you got into school and dare to fight me with this little ability. To deal with you, I don't even need a martial soul. As he said, Wang Dong's left foot was on the ground, his body was like an arrow, and he rushed towards Hu Yuhao. Not only was his speed fast, but he also looked extremely agile. In the blink of an eye, he came to Hu Yuhao. As soon as he raised his leg, Hu Yuhao realized that Wang Dong had a pair of long legs that exceeded the proportion of ordinary people. Seeing that foot was in front of him, at this moment Hu Yuhao moved, and he quickly took a step to the right. At the same time, he patted Wang Dong's ankle with his left hand. Obviously, Wang Dong didn't expect that Hu Yuhao would be able to dodge such a quick kick. The right foot instantly retracted and dodged Hu Yuhao's left hand, and at the same time, it popped out like lightning. This time it was a kick. Hu Yuhao's neck. Hu Yuhao seemed to have predicted his actions. At the same time his leg popped out, he squatted down. The next moment he squatted down, he jumped up. His right shoulder just hit the lower part of Wang Dong's thigh. The movements are very fast. To outsiders, it seems that Wang Dong deliberately sent his legs up to allow Hu Yuhao to push them up with his shoulders. It has to be said that Wang Dong's physical fitness is extremely strong. In the center, but Wang Dong's right leg was raised high above his head, standing upright. His left foot was still standing firmly on the ground. Hu Yuhao could only feel the softness and elasticity of the shoulder of Wang Dong's thigh, so that he could not let his body move. His raised right leg was in line with his upper body. He continued to lean back, while kicking Hu Yuhao with his left foot. At this time, the width of his legs was completely beyond what normal people could imagine. Several times of attack, but this time, although he sensed Wang Dong's action, he had already rushed out and wanted to take it back, but it was too late. Guessing that the enemy's first opportunity must have a certain advantage, seeing Wang Dong bounced his left foot and kicked Hu Yuhao's hands to the chin. At the same time, he made a pressing motion and collided with his left foot. Wang Dong's strength was surprisingly strong, and this foot had an indescribably powerful concussion force. Even though the strength of Xuan Yu's hand was moved, he was still staggered by the shock. After Wang Dong's overturned body, his right foot was only lightly lifted on the ground, and the left foot fell down. The whole person rolled over again, and his right leg was like a whining whip. It went straight to Hu Yuhao's shoulder and lashed him down. Obviously, because Hu Yuhao was irritated by resisting his thigh earlier, his footsteps suddenly became agile. His figure flickered and he quickly dodged to the left. Wang Dong slammed his right foot on the ground, leaving a shallow footprint on the hard stone floor, which can be seen how strong was the kick. Then he rushed towards Hu Yuhao like a windmill. His legs were like two steel whips, and attacked Hu Yuhao like a storm. After the previous confrontation, Hu Yuhao calmed down now. The ability is fully activated, and calmly predicts every attack of Wang Dong. The ghost fan, who knows a thing or two, is under Wang Dong's fierce offensive. He is like a small boat, but it will not overturn. Wang Dong is more and more determined. Surprisingly, he clearly felt that Hu Yuhao's strength was far inferior to his own, both in terms of speed and strength, but his attacks just couldn't hit the ground. Hu Yuhao's speed was not fast, but he was often able to clearly predict his actions and thus make effective avoidance. He has already tried to use fake moves, but he still can't deceive his opponent. Wang Dong is not only proud of his personality, but also very stubborn. Since he said that he will not use the martial soul, he just keeps stepping up the offensive. He doesn't believe that Hu Yuhao can persist forever. Hu Yuhao was already on the verge of being unable to hold on anymore. Wang Dong's attacking legs were powerful, heavy and extremely fast. He could barely resist with mental detection when he was concentrating on it. But as time went by, the gap between him and Wang Dong in terms of physical fitness was huge. It gradually emerged that Hu Yuhao had lived a hard and malnourished life since he was a child. Xiantian Kung Fu's body nourishment had only just begun. Compared with Wang Dong, who has a deep foundation, his body is still far behind. Although he has used his martial soul now, Wang Dong has not used it. But the nourishment of the body by soul power is an internal battle. Hu Yuhao will inevitably make small mistakes as time goes by. He was just swept by the edge of Wang Dong's feet a few times. Hu Yuhao retreated faster and faster, and it seemed that he was about to avoid Wang Dong's attack. Suddenly he raised his head violently, because the movement was too big. Wang Dong subconsciously also looked at it. Turning to his face, he clearly saw a purple flash in Hu Yuhao's pale golden eyes, and then Wang Dong felt as if his brain had been pricked by a needle, and under the severe pain, a blank space appeared in his mind. How could Hu Yuhao let go of this opportunity? With a sudden stride, he rushed forward, jumped up, hugged Wang Dong's arms and legs tightly, wrapped around his waist, and knocked him down to the ground forcefully. Dong always used his legs to attack. Hu Yuhao was also in a hurry this time, because his legs were wrapped around his waist. How could his legs exert strength? Just subdue him. The sharp pain in his brain made Wang Dong frown, but it only lasted 2 seconds before he woke up, but his body had already been knocked down by Hu Yuhao, and his waist was hit by Hu Yuhao's legs. The arms were tightly locked and he was hugging their faces, but the distance between their faces was only an inch. Hu Yuhao gasped violently and asked in a low growl, "Are you convinced?" Struggling furiously, Hu Yuhao even used all his breastfeeding strength to attract his own soul power. It is not easy for him to break free without using his martial soul. Don't you admit that you lost? If I had used a knife just now, you would have died. Hu Yuhao growled without showing any weakness. He was now in close contact with Wang Dong's body, and he was a little surprised to find that Wang Dong's body was not only very flexible and elastic, but also had a kind of softness. It feels like a boy is exuding a very light and fresh fragrance, which smells very comfortable. Hearing his words, Wang Dong was stunned and his resistance also weakened. The distance between the two is so close. If Hu Yuhao wants to hurt him, there will be enough time. I lost. You hurry up, Wang Dong said angrily, but his eyes were full of dissatisfaction and hatred. But Hu Yuhao didn't let go of his cold Dao. It's not that I can't do the 5 things you said earlier, but it's not because of your threat, but out of respect for my roommate. I know that your strength is higher than mine. If you use Wuhuan, I will definitely not be your opponent even if you beat me to death. I will at least bite off a piece of flesh from your body. Watching Hu Yuhao become more and more fierce, and even look like a soul beast, the bloodthirsty eyes in Wang Dong's eyes, the hatred dissipated and was replaced by a trace of panic. The opponent's strength was clearly much weaker than him, but he was completely at a disadvantage in terms of momentum. Hu Yuhao let go slowly. Wang Dong stood up, faced him, took a few steps back, and then turned around. Walking towards the dormitory, Wang Dong sat on the ground for a while, then stood up again, and walked slowly towards the dormitory. When he reached the door of the dormitory, an old voice rang in his ears, "You really lost, not just losing in a fight." "Heart lost, why?" Wang Dong turned his head fiercely to look at the old man, and said unwillingly, "I am clearly stronger than him. If I want to deal with him, he can't even touch me. Why should he win against me?" The old man pointed to the position of his heart. "It's because he has a fearless heart, and you don't see death as home. Not everyone can do it." Wang Dong paused for a moment, then bowed deeply to the old man. "Thank you, Grandpa." Wake up. After speaking, he strode towards the dormitory and returned to the dormitory. Wang Dong saw that Hu Yuhao was already sitting on his wooden bed and meditated. Compared with Hu Yuhao's embarrassment, Wang Dong's bed was covered with a thick fur mattress. I don't know what kind of soul beast's fur it is, but it looks thick and soft, and the soft quilt has already been stuffed in his salute. The cabinet on my side was full, and there were quite a few Wang Dongs on the table, but he pulled the quilt over his head and went to sleep as if he was too lazy to clean up his anger. For the next 2 days, Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong ignored each other and did their own thing. What surprised Wang Dong was that apart from eating, Hu Yuhao was in a state of cultivation almost all the time. He could vaguely feel the strength of Hu Yuhao's soul power, but the more he felt it, the more incredible he felt it. The strength actually beat me. The New Year's enrollment work is finally over. The freshman dormitory building is also bustling. Although each dormitory is not big, the advantage is that there are 2 people in one room. The outside is lively, but the dormitory is very soundproof. Hu Yuhao these days. The battle with Wang Dong that day was a great inspiration to him. The reason why he was able to defeat the enemy was because of the trick awakened by the Qianmeng iceworm. The iceworm is indeed not a powerful soul beast million. The 4 skills given to Hu Yuhao by Qianmeng iceworm in 1999 are not very strong in themselves. They are spiritual detection, spiritual sharing, spiritual interference, and soul impact. The role of mental interference is a range-based skill that can interfere with all life forms with mental fluctuations within a radius of 30 meters from Hu Yuhao's body, but the degree of interference is not strong. Just in a trance, and he can only support this skill for less than 3 seconds now, and the soul power consumption is much greater than the previous 2 skills, and soul impact is the only one of these 4 skills that has a little bit of attack power, because it is a single target skill. So the attack power is strong. It's better than group mental interference, but not too much. The reason why Hu Yuhao was able to use it to defeat the enemy in the battle with Wang Dong was because he integrated the ability of the purple demon eye in the soul impact, and the effect was better than imagined. Even better, of course, this is also because Wang Dong was caught off guard. If he was prepared, the ability of soul impact would be greatly reduced, but no matter what, Hu Yuhao finally had a little bit of control system soul master with the skills of these 4 spiritual attributes. However, the elder brother once told him that in the freshman year, everything, regardless of department, has to survive the first year of freshman. "Hey, the class starts today. Are you still sitting here stupidly?" Wang Dong said. The sound awakened Hu Yuhao from his thoughts. He just had breakfast and came back to practice for a while. "Is the class starting now?" Hu Yuhao asked subconsciously. With a glance, he said indifferently, "There is still half an hour." Hu Yuhao responded, then closed his eyes and began to meditate. Xiantian Kung circulated for a week to improve the soul power by a small amount. Wang Dong didn't hear the following, turned around and looked at Hu Yuhao. Seeing that he had started meditating again, he could help, but muttered in a low voice, "What a madman." The one who didn't return took the lead out of the dormitory for 2 days. He had never seen Hu Yuhao lying down to sleep. The door of the white teaching building was opened. The freshmen wore white school uniforms and filed in. Each of them had a little green monster symbol symbolizing Shrek Academy on their left chest. Students of different grades have different colors of school uniforms, just like the colors of their teaching buildings. When Hui Yuhao hurried to the freshman teaching building, he heard the bell ringing. He rushed in and looked at the first classroom on the left side of the first floor. Arriving at the sign for the first class, I rushed in without hesitation. At this time, the large room was already full of people. Since Hui Yuhao was the last one, there were very few empty seats. He finally found an empty seat and sat down beside him. At the same table is a very beautiful little girl, but this little girl looks a little like Wang Dong when he first met. She looks a bit arrogant. She raised her head and didn't even look at him. After sitting down, Hui Yuhao had time to look around. The situation is that the classroom is very large, and there are 100 students in the same class as him. According to the scale of 1,000 freshmen, the freshman class should be about 10. He saw Wang Dong very quickly. It was because Wang Dong's appearance was so outstanding. The people sitting on the left and right are actually girls, and none of them are worse than the female students next to Hui Yuhao. At this moment, a person walked in at the door of the classroom. It was an old woman with chicken skin and white hair coiled on top of her head. She was wearing a white robe and was of medium build. What is very strange is that she has a pair of very bright eyes, and the black eyes are radiant. Hui Yuhao's own martial soul is the spirit eye, so he is particularly sensitive to other people's eyes. He felt a strong spiritual power from the old woman's eyes. Don't look at this old woman, who is very old, but her waist is straight. After a few steps, she walked to the back of the podium. She must be the teacher of the freshman class. Seeing a teacher come in, the class that was still a little chaotic before suddenly quieted down. They all focused on the podium, the old lady's gaze calmly swept from left to right, and everyone felt a feeling of being watched by her, and an invisible pressure suddenly appeared in their hearts. My name is Ju Yi, and I'm your head teacher. How many people can walk with me in the next year? But what I want to tell you is that in my class, it is impossible to pass all the rubbish. What I want to train is monsters, not idiots. Teacher Ju's voice is a terrible one. Her hoarseness was like a broken gong. After listening to her words, many students showed indignation on their faces. They could pass the examination and become students of Shrek Academy. Absolutely deserves to be regarded as an elite, but in the mouth of this teacher Ju, he turned into rubbish. The idiot Hui Yuhao was very calm. When he first saw this teacher Ju, he remembered what the senior brother and teacher Xiaoya said. This teacher Ju, he will be very strict and has a bad temper, but he has real skills. Those who have fought in the past few days after signing up stand up. Ju Yi's next sentence shocked the whole class again. These students are all just admitted. Who is it? Will fight in the academy. Even if you hit him, who will admit it? Just when the whole class remained silent, one person stood up. It was Hui Yuhao. He stood up not because he was honest, but because he vaguely guessed that teacher Ju would not play cards according to common sense. Seeing Hui Yuhao stand up, Wang Dong snorted. Not to be outdone, she stood up. Out of the 100 students in the class, only 2 of them stood up and immediately became the focus of attention of the whole class. Only 2. Don't you guys know what it means to be mediocre if you don't dare to make trouble? Except for the 2 of them, everyone else will go out and run around Shrek Square for 100 laps. The whole class is in an uproar. Who can be convinced that he was punished for not fighting before the start of the term? Immediately, a student stood up. Teacher, I don't accept it. Why should we be punished if we don't fight? Ju Yi said indifferently, because I'm not convinced. You can go away. As the class teacher, I have the right to expel any student. If I don't see you running around Shrek Square within a minute, then all of you are expelling. A terrifying aura surged out of her body. That powerful wave of soul power oppressed every student present, who felt unable to breathe. Circles of soul rings rose from Ju Yi's feet. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black soul rings burst out with an indescribably powerful aura. Teacher Ju turned out to be a soul emperor-level powerhouse, with 2 10,000-year soul rings. It is no exaggeration to say that if she wants to clean up the 100 young students in front of me are easy to grasp. After all, these students are only freshmen. Under the pressure, how can anyone dare to resist? They all stood up and walked out in desperation. Ju Yi's soul ring was also put away, and she watched the students out of the classroom with a blank face, remind you that you only have 1 hour, and those who don't run 100 laps after 1 hour will be considered unqualified. This is your first entrance exam. Those who failed the field assessment were expelled. Hearing what she said, the students' movements immediately sped up. After leaving the classroom, they quickly ran to the playground. Wang Dong glanced at Hu Yuhao with some surprise. Ju Yi's face seemed to be much gentler, and he waved to them both. Wang Dong and Hu Yuhao walked over together and looked at them. Who are you fighting with and why? Just as Wang Dong was about to speak, Hu Yuhao hurriedly said, Teacher, we are roommates. There was a conflict over a trivial matter. Ju Yi seemed very interested and said, Oh. Roommates fight well. Roommates fight best. This way there is competition and mutual progress. Standing in front of Ju Yi, whether it is Hu Yuhao or Wang Dong, both feel that the vest is cold and sweating, and this teacher, Ju just now, is too domineering. And she really didn't play cards according to common sense. The way of thinking is also completely different from that of normal people. As expected, he is the monster teacher that the big brother said. Ju Yi showed a smile that was uglier than crying. Remember that the next time you fight, you have to fight another class. The school rules of our Shrek Academy have always been loose. The purpose is to promote the individuality of the students. Fighting has always been ignored, but there are certain restrictions. Let me tell you what senior students do not. It is allowed to actively provoke or attack lower grade students. Once found out, they will be expelled immediately, but the lower grade students can take the initiative to challenge the higher grade students, but this requires a teacher to witness that it is not the upper grade students who bully others. Non-interference in fighting is one of the best ways to improve your own quality. If you can advance to the second grade in the future, you can go to the fighting spirit area to compete and win more. If you win more, the academy will give you rewards. But now, you can also go for a run. Wang Dong was taken aback. Teacher, didn't you say that the two of us are bloody? Ju Yi, whose cameo is this? All the characters in this book, except for a few specific ones, are all provided by the readers. Ju Yi is still smiling, but I didn't. I said you don't need to run. Fighting with your roommates as soon as school starts, you are really promising. Since you are so promising, the difficulty of the assessment should be higher than others, not to mention that you have to share the joys and sorrows with your classmates. The end time of your 100 laps is the same as everyone else. It's been a while. Wang Dong wanted to say something, but was pulled by Hu Yuhao. Hu Yuhao turned around without hesitation and ran out. Although Wang Dong was depressed, he still ran out with him. He said, Can you speak up to her? Can you beat her? If you can't and you want to stay in Shrek Academy, then you have to follow her advice and run quickly. I believe she said just now that you will be expelled if you run less than 100 laps. Lake Square Shrek Square is not too big. It is about 300 meters in a lap. It is not an easy task for ordinary people to run 100 laps around the square, but for these young students, who have the foundation of Soul Masters, it's not difficult. As long as you run hard for an hour, you can finish the run anyway. Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong also started to join the running army, and there were a lot of gloating voices, but the two didn't care about these. They were already a quarter of an hour behind. You have to hurry up, and while running, Wang Dong suddenly asked Hu Yuhao, What skill did you use to defeat me that day? I haven't figured it out yet. Could it be that your martial soul is a spiritual attribute? Hu Yuhao nodded. Wang Dong, I was taken aback. It's really a spiritual attribute. No wonder I didn't see what your martial soul is after you used the soul ring that day. After all, I didn't lose too much. Hu Yuhao said helplessly, You are too arrogant. If you also use the martial soul, there is no chance at all. I can feel that your soul power should be much stronger than mine. Wang Dong said with some pride, Of course, among the freshmen this year, there are only a few people whose strength can compare with mine. You are only one. The 10-year soul ring is naturally not my opponent. Hu Yuhao just can't understand his superior appearance. Don't forget that you just lost to the 10-year soul ring. Ah. Wang Dong said angrily, Okay, let's not talk about this for the sake of protecting me in front of you and that perverted teacher just now. Even if what happened before is over, I will protect you. Whoever dares to bully you, I will protect you. Hu Yuhao was speechless for a while, I don't need your protection," while speeding up his pace and running forward. Wang Dong also speeded up accordingly. His physical fitness is much better than Hu Yuhao's, and it is very easy to follow his speed. "You are really unreasonable," Wang Dong said with some dissatisfaction. Hu Yuhao glared at him and said, "If you treated me as an equal classmate, you would nt feel this way." Wang Dong curled his lips. "I treat them as equals," Hu Yuhao snorted and stopped looking at him. Proud, but his cultivation is really extraordinary, and his physical fitness is extremely strong. No one in the whole freshman class can keep up with him. The running students' eyes were quickly attracted by Wang Dong. Their eyes changed slightly and then returned to normal. Time passed quickly as the number of laps increased. The running students' breathing gradually became heavier. At this time, their physical fitness and cultivation level, it appeared that Ju Yi did not say that the use of soul power was not allowed, so everyone used their soul power to recover their physical strength for a long-distance run. There were more than a dozen people in the front who were not slow. Episode 4 Part 1 end here.